had my aha moment, lying in a hammock, out in the woods. I was camping, doing what I shouldn't have been doing, which was checking my work email. But I had a terrible mobile connection while I was out there. Very, very slow. And that's when I started to realize some of the applications on my phone did not anger me. I was not getting really frustrated with this. Others, on the other hand, were making me very mad. And so I started to notice what was similar about the ones that worked and what wasn't great about the ones that didn't. And this led me on this journey to kind of like go to the UX research and try and understand it a little bit better. What this led to was a different set of metrics to become really interested in. The speed index, it's a measure of progressive load, the mixed interaction. So if I start clicking a button and it's not responding. The last thing here, the cumulative layout shift, is a really important one. I hate when things just disappear and I didn't interact with it to tell it to move. And so when I introduced these words, it suddenly changed the way that our engineering teams, our front-end engineering teams were thinking about building their pages, right? Because every CX mock we ever got was just a fully rendered page. It didn't really explain to us how to get from nothing to something. And that nothing to something turned out to be what was really important here, right? The appy experiences were focused as much on the transitional space as they were on the pages that loaded. And so when I look at a workflow, what becomes really interesting is I'm bringing elements of the last page into the next one, and that really kind of helps me, one, stay oriented in the larger workflow, but I started thinking about how could I get data from A to B? Now, of course, I could just pass the image to the next activity in this case, because it was a while ago, but that felt really like coupled, right? Because my applications were being built by multiple teams that own different parts of it, so we had to find something common across all the pages that could be shared across everything, and that's when we realized the data. I do want to talk really quick about what the normalized cache is doing in the Apollo client. Effectively, when I take a large query, it's going to slice it down by the various objects that are in that query, and then store them independently of one another. Now, to do this, it does need some kind of key. Typically, that's going to be an ID field. That's the default, but you can reset the normalized cache to be whatever you want. I would highly recommend sticking to something standard, but your application, you know it better than I do, right? So just to kind of like build up how this works in the Kotlin space, I'm going to make a query. Then with a lot of help from Android X and Jetpack, I'm going to be able to convert that value of the query into a view model. I'm then able to bind that view model to my template. And then something really magical is going to happen is whenever the view model or the data changes, the view model will change and then my template will re-render, right? So I get this very reactive pattern of updates, which is really nice because it starts to simplify some of the problems that we had with communicating across multiple components in the app, and everybody's now agreed upon the same piece of data. In this case, it's actually really simple. Like here I have my query, I'm making a product query, and then the magic here is that watch call, right? What I'm effectively telling the Kotlin to do here is set up a coroutine for me, and then whenever something in that query, remember it's been broken down by all the entities into different pieces, if any of those change for whatever reason, maybe another query got fired by a different part of my application later, that block will rerun, right? And so that gives me the reactive updates in a very easy way. Now, from here, I am going to map this into a view model. That's what this view model mapper function is. It's a private function that I have set up that we'll see in just a bit. But the other really interesting thing here is the use of live data within the Android space, which then allows me to say, hey, look, the view model has changed now. Maybe we should go run through that whole re-render piece, right? So view model mapping is very simple. I do suggest that you kind of bounce through an intermediate object, which is a little bit cleaner this way. And then binding these things in a reactive way becomes incredibly easy as well, right? I just grab the bindings for the product image and the product description here. I tell Picasso, the image management library that I'm using in this one, that, hey, for that image URL, go fetch it, you deal with it, and then when you're ready, throw it onto the screen. And then I'll do the same thing for the product description and text. So If I now make a later query and any of these things change because of a result that came back, the normalized cache is going to recognize that through that ID field. It's going to update that, and it's going to re-trigger my watch call because something that was contributing to that query is now different. And it reruns through this whole process again, and boom, my screen is updated. I didn't have to do a lot of work there. It was pretty simple. So I do want to kind of show this in an actual example here. The purple is kind of dealing with just the Chrome at the top there. The light blue cyan color is dealing with our product page. And then this other one is the suggestion page as it got built by yet another team, right? What's interesting here is they're all operating over the same cart data object within the normalized cache, right? When that add to cart button gets pressed, it's going to trigger a mutation. That mutation is going to add something to the cart, and the results of the mutation are going to contain the new cart contents, right? And so boom, suddenly something has changed, and everything that was bound previously to that cart object is getting notified, right? So in the next screen, you may barely be able to see it, but the cart icon has changed a little bit. That's because it was notified of this change and it was able to update itself. Now if I click the add to cart button again, notice that there's now two cart icons on this specific screen here. They're both operating over the same piece of data, so they're consistent. Click add to cart, the same workflow kicks off again. Even though these are written by different teams, the only thing they agreed on is that mutation that was defined in our schema. And then we wind up on the last screen here with now 2 items in my cart. So all of that was done with decoupled components, all just agreeing on the shapes that were in our cache, right? That makes it really nice. Because I don't have to have these teams in my stand-up trying to get on my roadmap to figure things out. We just love the schema, right? That's it.